I love that video. I really do. I never get tired of it. I never get tired of talking to guys like Rudy Reyes and Alexandre Lores. This is the Predictive Playbook Sports Show and Sports Betting Show. This is going to be a blend for fans that have no interest in betting, but fans that have a big passion for their local teams or whatever team it may be in college football and the NFL. And gentlemen, welcome to the show first and foremost, and thanks for taking the time to be with me. This is a week in college football where we have more ranked matchups than at any week this early in September since 2006. Now, we won't waste any time. That 10 seconds that Penn State, we already know they're going to win, so we can skip over that one. But weather could be a factor there, so we want to keep our our ears open to weather forecasts. But Rudy, welcome to the show. We'll start with you. How are things going? And then we'll have Alexander share the same thing, and then we'll get right to the games that we have on the menu.
You know, I'm good. It's Friday, so everybody should be good on a Friday. And if you're not, you need to drink your coffee or tea or whatever works for you to get you started on your way to the weekend. So going good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And of course, we're here on the Pointsville app. This is going to be a very fun, exciting. There's a lot of games. You mentioned Penn State. I think Penn State is a team that you can almost close your eyes and drive blindfolded knowing they're going to win tomorrow. I can't say so much for, Ohio State will take on Notre Dame. We'll talk about that shortly. But good stuff so far. I love where the college football season is going. A lot of surprises, especially in the Pac-12. So this is going to be a very exciting weekend.
I agree 100%, Rudy. I really do. It's gonna be one of those. Here in the East, we have a tropical storm coming up the coast. So it's almost a perfect storm to stay indoors and just enjoy the games. There'll be one after the other starting at noon. Alexander, how are things going with you? You have one of the best Pointsville apps out there, and that baseball show is really kicking butt that I enjoy every single week being on with Rudy and Barry Gold and Marianne Sales. So welcome to the show.
John, it's fantastic to be here. Appreciate you and Rudy being on the show each week. As you can see, I'm wearing the colors as a Philly fan, my green shirt and Phillies wall in the background. And definitely excited, will say, college football. Penn State's my team, so glad they're having a hot start. And hopefully it could be a national contender this year. Sometimes get close, but never quite close enough. Anyway, excited to be here and excited to work with you. We got some exciting things on the Pointsville show every Friday at 11 Eastern. And of course, we're talking about baseball there, so we can phase over, be a bit more free here, talk about football. But it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's I can't wait for tomorrow. I really can. There's some games tonight, too, that are pretty good matchups. Wisconsin's on the board, but it's not like anything tomorrow. There's just a whole bunch of slates that it'll be a very, very exciting game, conditions and excitement for everyone. But the first game we have going here, which one is it, guys? I forgot which one we're doing first.
Well, based on my understanding, we're going to kind of dive into Ohio State taking on Notre Dame and to see what that actually looks like. Notre Dame has been, I think, the surprise team in the NCAA, at least at this point. The Pac-12, certainly there are teams within that conference that look equally as good, that are certainly viable contenders. As we know, the Pac-12 has had its issues in the past, but moreover, this is really about Notre Dame taking care of the football on both sides. They own the line of scrimmage. Quarterback play is solid. Just things that they're doing are kind of taking people by surprise right now. But it's going to be a really tough game against this Ohio State Buckeyes team, who is no joke, ranked 6th in the nation as well. This is going to be a dogfight when it's all said and done. Depends on who gets the bone, is the one that's going to get the win.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not betting with my heart, guys. I really am not betting with my heart in this game, but I will be on Notre Dame. I actually think the wrong team is favored. And one of the fundamental reasons is when I do the research all week is they took Sam Hartman is tremendous. 13 touchdowns already this season. He's 123 for his career, which I believe is 7th on the all-time list behind the likes of Houston's Case Keenum, who has 155. That's the most in college football all time. But the other names like Baker Mayfield, he's 131 touchdowns. Marshall's Rakeem Cato, 131. I don't think I ever saw him play, though, although I don't remember. But he must have been very, very good, obviously. And he's really executing the offense perfectly. No interceptions. And I think another thing that the coaching staff did that was really good for Notre Dame was their running back, Chris Tyree. They moved him to wide receiver. He has elite speed. And my opinion, over the years, where is the weakness on Ohio State's defense? It's in the back end. And if you run long crossing vertical routes against them, you have the chance for some really, really big chunk plays and touchdown scores. And I really would be surprised if we don't see Chris Tyree running those routes on play action pass at some point, maybe multiple times during the first half. Alexander, how do you see this game?
I think it's going to be a tough one. Interesting point you brought up. Lou Holtz agrees with you, of course. I'm sure he's biased, though. But, yeah, Ohio State's always in the conversation for the national championship. So I think if Notre Dame wins this one, they definitely are a contender for the number one spot as well as winning the championship. So interesting to see who wins out. I did live in Columbus for 2 years, so I'm going to be rooting for Ohio State, though I think you may have a point.
Point taken. Speaking of points, you have negative. They're under by 3 for Ohio State, which is kind of an oddity to me. Notre Dame has been much, much hotter than Ohio State coming into this contest. They have just performed prolifically, again, in all different facets, from quarterback play, being able to diagnose the blitz offensively, putting, they know how to stretch defenses, and that's one of the things that I don't believe Notre Dame is really getting noted for necessarily, is their ability to stretch the field and to put, use play action and use guys in the slot, maybe even tight end slant or tight end grouping on the right side. They've just done so much better than any year previously, at least to my knowledge, since maybe Rudy Reyes played for them, but just done so much for that team, the way that they've been playing, the kind of zest and fervor that everybody who's a Notre Dame fan, or maybe if you're not a fan, you're just a fan of football. It's not necessarily appreciating the teams you're watching. It's the play. It's the play style. It's the play through. And I think Notre Dame is going to give this team of Ohio State and the Buckeyes a real run for their money, no pun intended, when Ohio State, I think, is the wrong favorite. And I agree with that, John.
Yeah, I'll throw in there too, John. You love statistics. They've only played 6 games in between, which Ohio State's won 6 in a row. But the last Notre Dame win was in 1936 against Ohio State. So it should be interesting if they could break that trend.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree 100%. There's one situational angle I'll mention here too that's pretty cool. Betting on home teams. And this is for fans too. It's not, an encouragement to go out and necessarily bet. I do sometimes multiple pizza money size bets, but most of the time it's for entertainment. And that's why sports betting, is legal for us to enjoy, not to try to make it a full-time career and make a gazillion dollars, because you probably won't. And I've been doing this kind of work for 29 years, and I can't emphasize that enough, that you don't want to take chances unnecessarily. If you make a bet and all of a sudden you get a pit in your stomach, you just bet too much money. So just be aware of that. These plays don't always win, no matter what percentages I give them out at. My big ones hit 68%. But you know what, guys? That means it loses 32% of the time, and you have to be aware of that. So when I read this system off, just be aware of that. Home teams that have seen the total in their last 3 games play over by 21 points in total. Our team has won at least 80% of their games, and they're facing a foe that also won 80% or more of their games. Well, these 2 teams are undefeated. They're number 6 and number 9 in the land. The home team has gone 17-3 straight up, 85%, and the home team is Notre Dame, who is a dog, which brings in the money line opportunity. 14-6 against the spread are these home teams at 70% over the last 5 seasons dating back to 2019. So there, we just discussed the fundamental matchups of why we all like Notre Dame. and we put some analytical power behind it. So I really like how we broke down that game. That was good work by all three of us. So the next game, then I believe we're going into the NFL, right? We're going to talk about the Chargers, who are 0-2, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who are also 0-2. The unfortunate thing in this matchup is someone, well, not maybe, they could tie. It's unlikely, but if they don't tie, somebody's going to be 0-3. And when you're 0-3 in the NFL, only 6 teams since 1990 have made it onto the playoffs. And as Rudy told me before we went on the show, only one, what is it, since 2002, right?
Yeah, there's only one. And that was the 2018 Texans with Deshaun Watson under center.
Wow.
It's amazing. When you go into those ties and you tie a game, to me, that's a loss. It doesn't matter what the record says. It doesn't matter how many games you win. The Pittsburgh Steelers went through that just a couple of years ago, where they were, I think, 7-5-1 at some point in the season. A 1 is a loss. It's not a win. It's a loss, because what that does is that takes you out of potential wild card seeding. So any team that goes to 0-3 has a very tough task ahead of them getting into any type of wild card conversation in the NFL.
No doubt. How do you see this game going, Alexander? Do you have any opinion on who might win this game?
Yeah, I think the Vikings, they're not a bad team. They almost beat my Eagles. And I think despite how Eagles secondary is just awful, the Eagles are a good team. And the Vikings, gave them a run for their money, down 20 points in the second half, and came back twice, brought it to a 1-score game. I think they're going to come out on top. And, I think they're, it's unlikely, but a few more 0-2 teams made the playoffs, namely 93 Cowboys. 93 Cowboys, 94 Super Bowl, came back and won the Super Bowl after starting 0-2, including a loss to the Bills in the beginning of the regular season. Obviously, I don't think the Vikings are that good, but they're a good team. I think they still have a chance of winning 10 games. And I think they'll win this one.
The problem I have with this game is that you still have Kirk Cousins under center, okay? And John knows, anybody knows, you can go to therudedogshow.com and listen for yourself. Not a fan of Kirk Cousins, brothers, uncles, dads, sisters, cousins. It doesn't matter. He's just not that kind of guy for me. He doesn't play under center with the zest and sharpness, the field vision, not there. Field captain, and okay, fine. Maybe in the locker room. On the field, being that general, the one leading the charge. Unfortunately, I just don't see too much consistency from Kirk Cousins. And to be quite honest with you, I see the Minnesota Vikings going into next year's draft, albeit in Las Vegas, hopefully, but probably not, because it's close to me anyway in proximity, and then going all the way to Kansas City like it was this past year. I see them looking for a quarterback. I really honestly do. And there are a lot of great prospects. Caleb Williams at USC kind of reminds me of a guy that will go in the first round, maybe first overall draft pick, depending on how this season turns out for him. He's played stellar at USC up to this point. Kirk Cousins downfield doesn't really surprise me. Jefferson, okay, fine. He needs a better quarterback. When you have to shake your head about the quarterback throwing you the ball and it doesn't get to you, you got to question the guy under center, and that's Kirk Cousins. So I think that the Chargers are trying to find their own identity as well, which would have been the case for the Steelers had they have not won in a very, I don't know, spooky pre-Halloween kind of game that we seen just the other night. It was really weird for me and weird for a lot of fans, but it just goes to show that Justin Herbert, they don't have Austin Eckler, so scratch that one. His ankle's still bad, not able to play. They have to find their offensive identity. If they can do that, and they can really suck the air out of the secondary for the Minnesota Vikings, I see the Chargers getting the first dub.
So one of you likes the Chargers, one of you like the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm the tiebreaker, I guess. I don't really have any powerful analytics on this. I won't be on the game. There's situations for the result of this game that are 75% angles that'll apply to week 4 for both teams, no matter who wins or loses. But for this game, I think what I'd like to do is try to play a middle with pizza money, and whoever scores first, then I'll put pizza money on the other team, because the volatility, guys, in the NFL has gotten very large. There was 32 games played last year where each team had a 7-point lead or more. So that means there's a lot of blown leads, there's a lot of comebacks, and that's why it's so popular and exciting to watch. Because truly, the games, some of the games are blowouts, like the 40-0 Cowboys Giants game. But all in all, there has been back and forth. You watch the red zone, and it's amazing how often these lead changes happen. So I think with this game, I might have some fun with that. And then, if the other team then takes the lead that I just bet on, then I'll take the team that scored first, and then I'll have my middle. Hopefully, it'll be more than 7 points. And again, we're talking $5-10, guys. This is not. You're not investing your life savings in Apple Computer, for example. So I think my gut tells me the Chargers, but overall, I think it's going to be a pretty tight game. I don't see it being as a blowout. One question I have for you guys, and this is more on the betting side, but it's not a real big deal. The total, the Circa Hotel puts out betting lines literally probably about 2 months ago for every single game on the board, all 18 weeks. So what I learned when I do the Circa contest and the Westgate and all the other ones is I noticed that you have a benchmark now. We have the sentiment of the betting community as assigned by the Circa of what people think of that team before even week 1 starts, with all the lines going all the way out to week 18. So we have a total here that back 2 months ago was priced at 49.5 points. It's now up to 54.5 points, which would then tell me to be contrarian and consider a bet against that, which last year for the Circuit contest, those picks actually hit 60s, I think it was 67%, which helped me greatly because you have to pick 5 games every single week, whether you want to or not. And it's sides, not totals. So this happens to be a total that has moved, essentially 5 points. And I would lean the under, but I'm scared to death to do it because of these offenses and the fact that the Chargers defense is Swiss cheese. Do you have any insights on that possibility? Do you think the game plays over, or do you think it goes under at this point?
I'm leaning toward over. I think it could be a shootout. I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Cousins either. He's a quarterback I'd love to face in the playoffs as the Eagles. But I still think it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I think it's one I just stay away from.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm throwing myself in front of a tractor trailer or something, that the trend is obvious with the two offenses. Rudy, I know you have to get going because you are a host on an iHeart radio show, which is completely awesome. So I wanted to get your final thoughts before we send you on your way. And anything you want to promote of your work that you're doing over there. The Rude Dog Show is obviously great. And you know what, guys? He has 9,990 followers on Twitter. Can we please get him to 10,000 so we can all celebrate?
That would be a great post-birthday gift. I can tell you that right now. Just, at the end of the day, there's one game I want to just kind of briefly go over, and that's the Commanders. They pose more of a threat than I think people are really giving them credit for, despite the types of issues that they're currently facing, that they're currently dealing with. But to be honest with you, the ones that are really dealing with the issues is Josh Allen with the fumbleitis. So at the end of the day, the way that I look at it is this: Josh Allen needs to correct that. He needs to be that kind of guy to correct and right the wrong ship. Because right now it doesn't look very good for Josh Allen. Yes, they won their last matchup, but moving forward indicatively, when you look at Josh Allen, you just have to be able to play better, be a better version of your quarterback self on the field, and leave whatever issues that are hindering you from playing thoroughly and completely on the field behind. And I think that's one of the things that are going to help propel Josh Allen into the next segue of his career. But anytime you have Josh Allen under center and he can hold on to the ball, it can be dangerous on the outside. That may have changed a little bit. That landscape may have changed. However, I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be a great matchup. I'm giving the edge to the Bills only because of Josh Allen and the fact that he can get that ball out and make things happen on the run if the pressure becomes too great under center. Other than that, you can go to the RootDogShow.com. You can check out all my great work, 9 years in broadcast. If you're into the news thing and only news, you can download the iHeart radio app, and you can find me on KVTA out of Ventura, California, as well as Seattle 1090 AM, The Patriot, where I perform news updates, top of the hour, bottom of the hour. So, John, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Great to be on. Thank you, and we will do this again.
You got it. We'll see you next Friday, if not sooner, and thanks for being on.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Alex, a pleasure. Thanks, and go Steelers.
There you go. Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah, I'm really. I guess we're both fortunate to know him. You know, it's
I love having him on the show.
Knowledgeable, fun-loving guy.
Yeah.
I was thinking here with the time we have left. I know we were supposed to have other guests come on. Kevin Thomas, a professional sports bettor from Sports Memo that I've known for several years, is scheduled to be on here in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
And we can get his take on what's going on. But until then, I had mentioned the Dallas Cowboys Arizona game, and I think that plays over. There's a lot of trends with Arizona blowing that lead, and there was a lot of trends working against the Giants because they came back from that horrid deficit. I actually had the Giants in my eliminator contest. 5 of the 6, I had the Giants, and I thought, well, okay, I won't have to worry about the eliminator for basically the rest of the season. But fortunately, they came back, and if you had to pick an eliminator, the Eagles do come to mind here. But when you play the eliminator, you can only use a team once for the whole season. So I think a lot of people were successful last night taking the 49ers, but I think there was a much better shot for them on the schedule down later in the season. And if you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't really know if they're as good as all the hype was preseason. I just didn't buy into it. I want to see them do well. I mean, they have had, AFC championship losses where they should have won actually in New England. Had the play been called right, but it wasn't. What can you do? But I'm leaning Jacksonville.
You can beat them anyway with Nick Foles.
Right. That was the same year. Yep.
Yeah. I remember that. Anyway, it's interesting.
I'm leaning on Jacksonville, but I'm scared to do it, to be honest with you, because that's not an automatic win. There is no such thing in the NFL as an automatic win, unless I guess you're playing Arizona or maybe the Giants, with all due respect to their fans. But these teams honestly aren't playing well. But I might go Jacksonville because the rest of the schedule is pretty tough, and this might be the best spot to get them.
Yeah, you made a good point, and I would also tell you, I expect the Cowboys to slaughter Arizona, but interestingly enough, if they can hold the trend, they won the last 6 of 7 against Dallas. So I think Dallas is a better team, but as Chris Berman says, that's why they play the game, right? So you don't know. Just like last week, what happened, some things are just wild, and then you get awful teams that play a few amazing games and terrible, amazing teams that have a few bad games. It's happens throughout the season. I think the Cowboys are better than Arizona. I'm trying to see. I'd pick honestly the Chiefs over the Bears as a certainty, but the line's 12.5. So if you're talking on with the line, I don't know. I think there's a case for the Bears in that one.
And that's exactly where I start getting worried on these high lines because there are a lot of upsets. In college football. Dogs of 17.5 or more points win the game outright every single year at a much higher rate than anybody really understands, except for guys that play with numbers like I do. But I think the same thing in the NFL, and I think your point's perfect.
Because you could have the Chiefs up 3 touchdowns in a blowout, and they just take the pressure off, might even, protect Mahomes any way they need to in a game where they're up, the second half, and I could see Arizona, I could see the other team. Sorry, just went blank. Just totally coming back up on them. So the Bears, just because you have Fields, right? So he can create some plays and he can score, even though the rest of the team is just god awful. So I would still say, yeah. I mean, in terms of, I think you're right. I still like Dallas over the Cardinals to win that handily. Again, it is actually against their trend in terms of head-to-head matchups. The other thing is, I think I picked the Eagles. Honestly, I know that I'm biased, but I think teams play kind of maybe better than they are at the beginning, similar to what we had in baseball with the Pirates getting a solid start, even the Rays, and then kind of drifting back into more reality. I think the Bucks have some things going for them. I don't think they're overall a playoff team. And I think the Eagles are going to win by 14 points or more. So I'd be comfortable taking that one, actually. It's 5 points, right? So they're going to win by touchdown. So if they win, the odds I think of them winning by a touchdown is great. I don't know. The odds more than me. It's just my gut feeling.
No, and I think you're spot on. I think you got it nailed perfectly on that. And it's a good segue into your favorite team because I'm in the Princeton area, and the news does travel when the Philadelphia media starts getting, especially the fan base. There's nothing more passionate, and to their credit, when they, I remember a game a couple years ago. They were expected to be like 7-9. I can't remember if this is in the Super Bowl year, I don't think. But anyway, they're playing the Detroit Lions on the road early in the season, and they were only like 2.5-point favorites. And this was where the coach needs to be fired. He's playing, he's in a league that's way over his head. The quarterback sucks. The whole team should be just cast away. And the Eagles went out to Detroit and won something like 42-7. Conversely, when they're
was that back in the Chip Kelly days?
I think Sam Bradford?
Yeah, they had a few good games. Yep. They even beat the Patriots, who were the reigning Super Bowl champs. In his last win was against the Patriots, and they just fell completely apart. So yeah, you get flukes, right?
Yeah, and sentiment flows like in the sports markets too. When everybody gets too bullish on a team, it's just like the stock market. You get too bullish that things are going up, and you have corrections like we're having now.
Don't forget, the Detroit Lions aren't a real football team, as I mentioned.
Well, they're not the real football team.
No, you have like the Harlem Globetrotters. They always beat the Washington Generals, right? Yeah. So as I was joking, but if you think about it, that's my conspiracy theory. I don't think they're a real football team. Barry Sanders runs for -1 yards in 1994 in the playoffs against the Packers. He's a real football player, so I think that was a setup. The Eagles had Rodney Peete at quarterback. Ray Rhodes, he only won one playoff game as the coach, 96. Rodney Pete's completion percentage, I think, on the year was like 47%. He had more interceptions and touchdowns. And the Eagles put 59 points up on the board, right? So some things just don't make sense. They're good luck for the Eagles. I just don't think, I think that further establishes my conspiracy theory that Sam Bradford could destroy them. And Chip Kelly, they didn't take care of much that year, but they took care of the Lions. So I think they, if there's ever a case for the fact that this is just like the WWF, I'm going to go for the Detroit Lions and Washington, also not a real football team.
Well, they were almost called that. Yeah. I actually, on the Manny's Irish Pub show that we used to have, I actually sent an email, whether it got to Mr. Snyder or not, I don't know. But instead of calling them the football team, which sounds like a YMCA type rec league, I recommended the Iron Condor, which you're an investment guy, and that's an option strategy. It wasn't based on that. The Iron Condor sounds like something you'd be scared of.
Yeah, especially if it falls on you.
Yeah, it's true. But
or maybe it's a bomber that's going to take apart your city.
Yep. Do you think Josh Allen and Dak Prescott will throw 1.5 passing touchdowns more or less? So this sounds
Both
like a
more.
prop bet.
Yeah, both more.
Yeah.
I would say so too. I mean, if Dak doesn't throw 3 against the Cardinals, then I don't know. I don't know how to explain that one. And then, Josh Allen, he has to throw 2 if you think they're going to win.
I think they're going to above. There's always the fluke you can have where the team is just, he throws a 70-yard bomb. The guy goes out at the 1-yard line. You run the ball in. You do that a couple of times, and you're up 2-3 touchdowns, and then they stop throwing the ball. That's the only fluke that could run you in trouble, even if they're demolishing the other team. Because when you're up by 2-3 touchdowns, you're generally not, gunning for the end zone, which you are sometimes, but most of the time. That's why a great quarterback can be on a good team that's winning by a lot and underperform in the stat category because they're winning by so much.
Yep.
Again, gut feeling, you'd know the numbers, but that's my thoughts on how it could be otherwise. But I'm going for yes above on both of them, definitely. Especially Allen's had a few rough games. I mean, he's going to want to prove a point, and I think he is going to do it successfully.
There's a lot of different ways to handicap a game. It's intuition, experience, analytics. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Just, there's a million different golf swings out there too, and some work really, really well. So back to the Eagles too, with the media. They seem to be concerned at Jalen Hurts' play. And I do like what Sirianni says, hey, we won the game. We didn't play our best by far, but we won the game. And, we're 2-0 going to Tampa to play them, who's not expected to be a good team this year. That remains to be seen because the Eagles are the type of team that could go down there and win 35-10.
I'm not concerned at all.
Personally?
No, I'm concerned about the defense. At the end of the day, you have a team that, could, in the first half, I think Hurts, when you're winning and your top quarterback is thrown like one pass over 5 yards and you're handily winning the football game, it says something, right? The fact that they completely stopped Jalen Hurts for one half and the Eagles were ahead and that they managed the Eagles were in complete and total control of that game, despite the fact that they couldn't throw the ball. And then he slipped in 2 or 3 50-yard throws. I mean, that just says it all. I mean, at the end of the day, the Eagles pull out their trio of running backs plus Jalen Hurts, pretty unstoppable. I honestly never heard of the name DeAndre Swift until last week, and I'm an Eagles fan. So 170 yards,
Wow.
a bunch of 4 turnovers, right? So even as badly as they've gone, I'm not going to buy a DeAndre Swift jersey, and the Eagles defense will figure it out. They might need to pick up some free agents. I don't know what they're going to do, but Jalen Hurts is the least of my worries. You still got those short yardage situations. If they can take the ball 9 yards and 3 downs, they've got a first down. Nothing can stop the tush, the tush push, right? So it's such a good play. The NFL tried to make it illegal. I mean, they admit nobody could defend him. This is like Randall Cunningham without the mental mistakes, right? So an indefensible force with the ball in his hand. I mean, they took the ball on their own 30-yard line with 30 seconds left or something, and they ran. They didn't throw the ball once, and they got a field goal. A couple runs. It was like, oh, a nice surprise. And Hurts scrambles for 5-6 yards, and they've got a kicker who kicked a 61-yard field goal. I'm excited about what is coming up, and I'm excited to see once Hurts is kind of, as you know, he's going to have good games and bad games, but they dominated the other team. They put 34 points on the board with those struggles. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do when they get unleashed. Still, however you want to call it, the Eagles averaging 29 points a game. So you can't complain too hard. I'd like to see him, I'd like to see a 4 or 5 touchdown effort. I'm expecting to see that at some point in the season. It might be Tampa Bay. It might be against the Washington, not Guardians. might be against the Jets if they've decided to fall apart by then with their own. Don't have Rodgers, so the Eagles are 12-0 against the Jets. I hope that trend continues. There's of course the Giants. We might get 5 touchdowns against the Giants, but I'm overconfident in Jalen Hurts. I'm not worried about it. They'll have good games and bad, but no, I'm worried about their secondary. Honestly,
that's what I see too.
Jalen Hurts figures it out. He wasn't given much. The Minnesota defense was real good, and he did pull off 2-3 massive plays against them. And when we didn't have massive plays, they made it running the ball 3.5 yards a carry down the field, and we're still unstoppable. So if you can do that, that adds, however you want to say he's a good quarterback, bad quarterback. The fact that they have him running plus 3 running backs adds dimension to the game. Which makes that offense very difficult to defend, because even if you can stop the pass, they'll get you on the run. And if you can if you put more focus on the run, as was clear in that game, right? As much as they held him down, as much as he didn't get much going, when he did get going, he popped a couple 50-yard passes. Devontae Smith had maybe the best game of his career, right? So, he's still 71% completion percentage. So you're looking at they don't give him much. He'll get the small yardage, running, short passes, etc. And they'll figure it out. They'll get the momentum going. I'm not worried about that.
You think the Eagles better than most of the people I know, and you think Bradbury, and he's still listed as concussion protocol, which I find, kind of intriguing. They're usually off by now, but he was limited in practice yesterday. Do you think if he doesn't play, that's do you think they need to have him in the defense to ensure that they actually win the game? Because he is a pretty big piece of that defense.
He is, and it's probably going to mean their defense is going to look awful, and it's going to be another ugly win. But I see Jalen coming into stride. They got Swift, they got other weapons. I see them putting up 30, 40 points in this matchup. If there's going to be one, that's one of the most likely.
At the end of the day,
they might give up 20, 30. Might be close, but I think if they're going to sit Bradbury, this is a good game to do it.
Yeah, to make sure that he's completely healthy. I like that idea too.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's scary. It is concerning, and I'm assuming they haven't made any statements about it, and they usually wait till the last second. But there is obviously concern.
Well, I can tell you a few really cool coaching stats here on Sirianno in this matchup. 11-1 as a road favorite. 14-5 in road games. Let's see. What else can I tell you here? 7-1 in a road game after allowing 99 or fewer rushing yards in 2 consecutive games. 12-3 after gaining 400 or more total yards in their previous game. 12-5 in the first half of the season. Bowles, the coach of Tampa Bay, 7-9 in games played on the grass field. Maybe that's not all that meaningful, but I wish all the stadiums would go to a grass field. Way too many injuries now. The guys are bigger, faster, stronger, and grass limits injuries. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the MetLife Stadium puts down grass for soccer games, but this ridiculous artificial turf for the football games. It's just mind-blowing in my opinion.
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, and it's just it's so frustrating when you're a fan of the Jets. You haven't had much to cheer for in a long time, and now all of a sudden you do. And third play in the game, the turf basically ruins your season.
Yeah,
and it's just awful. But in terms of wrapping up the show here, Alexander, what I wanted to do was, of the NFL games on the card this week, which team and game do you think has the most potential for the upset win?
That's a great question.
Thinking of any given Sunday.
Looking at it, What's that? Yeah, Sunday. This sounds crazy, but I'm going to say the Broncos over the Dolphins. Again, that's why it's an upset, right? But I think that they need obviously Russell Wilson and that team. I think they have some fight left in them, and I think if they have any chance of turning around, it's this game. Just on the odds of flipping the coin too has been so good. It's not likely that he's going to be bad, but let's say this is the game where he slips up a bit. I'll take a gamble with some pizza money if I could on Denver in that matchup.
And that's my pick for the show too. The most probable upset, and it's also with 67% of the public money on the Dolphins. That's pretty close to the red flag area of the mid 70s, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it go more. This line opened at the circa a couple of months ago at 3, and now it's 6.5. And I do think this is a must win for Denver. We know what 0-3 teams do, and they have a pretty good coach the last I checked. So I agree with you. I think the play here is to go contrarian and take Denver to take care of the fish.
Yeah,
it should be a terrible loss for them at home, but that's the football. I mean, you make it to 10 wins, and you might have home field advantage this year.
Yeah,
so
and I think they have a good shot of that, especially with what's happening with the Jets, Patriots stumbling out, and even the Bills struggling. But I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. When there's time to short Bitcoin, right? Market top is when I short the Dolphins and go long on Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're doing the wrong thing to fade Bitcoin at 60,000, but that's another show you and I are going to do with Steve Merrill, Wager Talk, and get that thing set up for next week as well. Before we sign off here, I just wanted you to tell everyone about your great Pointsville app and the show that I absolutely love, 11 a.m. on Fridays, 1 hour of passionate baseball discussion. Very respectful, though. It's not people trying to shout over each other. Everybody listens and respects to what everybody's saying. And some, and we had fun today, when Rudy was telling everybody that Ohtani won't go to Philly because they booed Santa Claus. And then I interrupted him rudely and said, that was the Eagle fans that did that, not the Philly fans, but it was all in good fun. But tell us all about the Pointsville app and anything else you got going.
Well, as you can see, personally, guilty of both. Eagles in my shirt, Phillies in the back wall. Every hour, every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, we do an hour of only baseball with Pointsville, going on episode 23. Excited to co-host with Beth Sales, Barry Long, second, not the first, not the third, and yourself, John Ryan. You've been on the show enough. I'd call you a co-host. Always bring the analysis, and it's always entertaining. We've got fans from Dodgers fans to Reds fans, Houston Astros fans, Phillies fans, Pirates fans. But Pointsville, we're a leading loyalty rewards company. We partner with Major League Baseball teams, and we've got some exciting news we're working on that end, expanding to more. But I could say that we want to create a fan experience, and we're working on various programs. We'll be looping in with the teams in a deeper level in 2024. But is a space just for fun. If you're a baseball fan, come chat. And like you said, everyone's welcome to share their opinion, and it's respectful, and we just have fun. So if you want to check out Pointsville, you can download the Pointsville app on iOS and Android. Give us a follow on Twitter on Pointsville app. Otherwise, tune in 11 a.m. Eastern and enjoy the show. Only baseball with Pointsville.
Well, we're not going to end quite yet.
Hey,
welcome to the show, Barry. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Sorry, I had
great to see you.
I had a great experience trying to figure that out, but good to see you too.
Hey, it's our first show. It's
so we're talking football, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna go another 5 minutes, and I guess what we could do is the main thing was 2 things we'll give you: the Chargers and the Vikings. Who is going to be 0-3? Because we know that since 1990, only 6 teams have gone 0-3 have made the playoffs. So for that fan base, it's going to be a pretty sad day that goes 0-3. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at what the Vikings were able to do, the Vikings they added Cam Akers and went out because that running game has been struggling, and ever since they got rid of Dalvin Cook. So yeah, I mean, I like the Vikings to win this game. I think that that still Kirk Cousins there's a lot that he has to prove this season. Without that running game, the defense is still struggling, but I do like them to win this game.
So if everybody was on the show so far, I think it was 4-1 in favor of the Vikings. So I think I was the only one that said my gut feel was the Chargers.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, like with the Chargers, I mean, they struggled the first 2 weeks, but Brandon Staley going to be on that hot seat, and if he starts 0-3, I think that the seat gets even hotter, and I think that he's going to be the one that we're looking at as the first coach to be fired before Black Friday, because he's been on the hot seat for a few years now. Every time that he's going for it on 4th and 21 from his own 21-yard line. His game management and clock management has been questionable at times, but he's gotten saved by certain wins and making it to the playoffs. But the way that they lost that playoff game, it left the sour taste in people's mouths. So I feel like if they start off 0-3, then I feel like there's going to be some changes that may come. And Kellen Moore is the perfect person to be the interim head coach.
Good stuff, real good stuff. Last question for you. We, Alexander and I and Rudy Reyes was on too. We talked about the biggest upset of the week in the NFL card. We both are on the Denver Broncos to take down the Fish there in Miami. What would be yours?
I like that one too. I'm gonna go Commanders over the Bills. I think the Commanders have something special right there going with Eric Bieniemy and Ron Rivera. And I like Sam Howell. Some of the throws that he made last week were just incredible. I mean, so I like them over the Bills. I think that this is a kind of a rivalry because of the Super Bowl from the 90s. But there's fans one thing about that fan base is that they always get up to play Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills are fit to play anybody, but I just managed this week over the Buffalo Bills.
I like that pick too. And what's really funny is when you said Commanders, Alexander's face matched the color of his background on the wall. But, he's an Eagles fan, right?
Yeah.
Well, those are going to be more competitive games, and then. Obviously both Dallas and the Eagles could be undefeated when they meet November 6th, is it, Alexander?
It's going to be special.
That's going to be.
Are you guys believers in Dallas? I mean, because they started off the first 6 quarters 60 to 70 to 0, 60 to 0.
They do it every year
against their first opponents, but losing Trayvon Diggs is going to be major. I think that the fact that they went out and picked up Stephon Gilmore is going to be a great thing because they were probably the top cornerback duo in the league besides what they have in New York with the Jets. But ultimately, I still feel like that defense is legit, but I'm just not a believer in the offense just yet. I want to see more, and I want to see what they look like once they get running good and going later on in the season. So, but I'm not a believer just yet. You're not a believer in Dallas?
No.
As an Eagles fan, I'm never a believer in Dallas. I hate to see people get injured. It's sad. But no, I would like to see an undefeated matchup, but I see them. Dak Prescott's like the greatest NFL player in history that somehow just always loses the juice. I don't know how he does it, but he just manages to mess it up at just the right time. While on paper and seeing in the first, 12 games of the season, he could be arguably the greatest NFL quarterback in history. But then in the last, 5 games of the season, going to the playoffs, he just can't keep it together. So, if Tom Brady didn't win a game after week 12, we wouldn't be talking about him in any breath, right? So I don't know. He's got to come through. That might change. Someone could snap their fingers. They could win 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. But I'm never a believer in Dallas. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I love the passion, man. Gotta love it. I like that Dodgers in the background, though.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I'm more of a guy that has multiple teams. I'm just like a sports fan. We had a family member play NFL tight end for the 49ers for 7 years, and that's pretty cool. But we never like got to like when I was just a kid, you know, my dad and my older brother would throw things at the TV when the Eagles would screw up. And I never really understood why that. I mean, why are you doing that? If you break the TV, we can't see it anymore. But, you know, whenever I'm more of like an underdog guy, like I want to see Jacksonville do well this year. I wanted to see the Jets do well. And years past, I hated the Jets. But I am kind of a closet Patriot fan, Alexander. I'm sorry. I'll tell you one thing with the Super Bowl was that, you know, we're watching it and there's the turnover, right? And Brady gets the ball back with 155 left. And I was like,
that was impressive.
Oh my God, he's going to do it again. And then I ran for crazy. Oh my God, no, please don't wreck this for my family. Please don't wreck this for my, and next play was the fumble.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, that was quite a moment then, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I root for underdogs too. I want to see the Jacksonville Jaguars do well. I root for good stories. Like, you know, one guy that I really want to see do well this year is Baker Mayfield, because he's a guy that plays hard with a chip on his shoulder. And he's a guy that, you know, has been through adversity in college. I mean, it didn't really work out necessarily at Texas Tech, but he goes on to, you know, to Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley, somehow able to revive his career. And then, you know, and then wins the Heisman and then becomes the number 1 overall draft pick. So he's one of those guys that kind of, you know, has gone through a lot already. And I feel like, you know, going to Carolina and struggling the way that he did, and then, you know, having that quick stint in LA, you know, it kind of devalued him in the league. And so, you know, people were even considering whether or not Kyle Trask was going to start over Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield for me is the guy that you know has been through a lot already in his short career. But he when he has a chip on his shoulder, that's when you know, when he's back against the wall, it's when he's at his best. So I picked him earlier on before the season to be this year's sort of Geno Smith, because Geno Smith, I mean, last year 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I mean, and he got that big contract worth $102 million, which is more than he's ever made in his entire career as a backup. So he came out of the and shocked the world. I think that Baker Mayfield. I picked him before and and I've been 2-0.
Just not this week, huh?
Not this week, though. Not this week.
He can win. He can win 14 games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're gonna have their hands full this week against the Eagles. Yeah, I like the Eagles in that game as well.
Yeah, way too much rest. But I guess to bring it into our first show for the Predictive Playbook football show, I think is what we're calling it. Usually on Fridays, guys, I used to have the Manny's Irish Pub Sports Betting Show. And, you know, over the time, sometimes, you know, the COVID kind of, you know, disrupted that for a little bit and guys move on to other stuff. But maybe I should try to resurrect that one too. And Manny is my Red Fox Labrador. Manny is not the guy in the back room taking bets at Manny's Irish Pub, which some people thought, you know, and that's kind of what I learned. There's a little mystery with that name Manny, and you mentioned Irish Pub. But anyway, I appreciate you guys being on the show. Any shout outs you guys want to do here last, but not least?
Just shout out to Pointsville. Shout out to everybody that taps in with the 5150 Sports Show, and shout out to both of you guys, both of you gentlemen.
Thanks,
shout out to Rudy Reyes.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy too.
Great
so
guy.
I was in the shows with one reminder for people, and it is my you know, kind of one of my visions to teach people that sports betting is supposed to be fun. And I mentioned earlier, if you make a bet and you start sweating before the kickoff, like, oh my God, I hope they win. You just bet too much money. You know, it's not fun when you lose too much money. And it's a danger sign if you win and get all exhilarated and then like try to go for it. It doesn't get you anywhere. Just keep it at pizza money bet for a while and learn how these things go and do the live betting strategies that I've been working on for 29 years. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. It really becomes fun to do. So we'll leave it at that. And remember, always bet with your head, not over it. And may all the wins continue to be yours.